Hey everybody, welcome to the SPG podcast. Today we have got an awesome guest, Dick Warlock. You may not know, this is the guy that played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, along with Kurt Russell's stunt double for over 25 years. Dick, welcome.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here, Chad.
Awesome. Yeah, Dick is a local guy. He lives here in East Tennessee, and he's been my neighbor for about 20 years. Not everybody's lucky enough to have Michael Myers as their neighbor, but here he is.
Yep.
So, how you been, man?
I've been pretty good. I'm getting sick of this COVID thing.
Oh, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Fortunately, some of the places here, because it's so small in our area,
Right.
that they're opening up, and you can move around and whatever. But,
Right. Well, and you're, 55 now?
yeah, going on 82 in February.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, so I guess you are kind of in the at-risk section also.
Well, that's
so you
what
do
they
kind of
say.
have to be careful. Well,
Yeah.
you're in great shape, though. I mean, heck, you've been falling off of buildings and crashing cars since your, 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
16, actually, is when I started.
Wow, 16.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So tell me a little bit, how did you get started? Dick is a stuntman, a retired Hollywood stuntman.
Yeah.
Like I said, Kurt Russell's stunt double for 25 years, but you didn't start out with Kurt Russell. Tell me a little bit. Where'd you from? Or where are you from? How did you get started?
I was born in 1940 in Cincinnati, Ohio, right out of Cincinnati, Ohio, a little town called Oakley.
Right.
Yeah, and my dad kind of was a tutor of the liquor, and so my uncle lived in California, and he worked for Douglas Aircraft.
Right.
So he contacted my dad and said, "Why don't you and the family move out here, and you can start your life over?" Oh, that's a good idea. So in 1952, February of 1952, well, actually it was late January, we packed up and moved to California. And we lived with my uncle for a while, and then we lived in an 18-foot trailer, which wasn't with the restrooms are down the road a ways.
Oh, yeah.
And then we moved down to the beach area, Manhattan Beach, and we lived there for, a year and a half, and then we just started moving all over. Well, I finally ended up in Burbank, California, and because I was, when we moved from up to Burbank, I met a guy that I come to know as a good friend, and unfortunately they just moved him into a VFW hospital where he's got dementia and going downhill. I met him at Corriganville, and the way I got Corriganville was in 54. My family took us to Corriganville. It was a movie ranch, an old-time movie ranch, and they did shows on the weekend. Well, because I'd been falling down all weekend long with the on the way out to the parking lot, my fiance at the time said, "Why don't you just go ask the guys for a job?"
So a movie ranch.
Yeah.
Explain it. What is a movie ranch?
On the weekend, well, it's where they shoot films.
Right.
A lot of Gene Autry and the Range Rider, and a lot of westerns were shot there.
Oh, movie
during
ranch.
that period.
Yeah, okay.
Crash bought the ranch because he saw into the future. He saw they're going to need locations.
Sure.
So he bought this property, built this town.
And this is when westerns were at their peak.
Exactly.
So, sure.
All
Okay.
the TV shows, the westerns used to do their shows there. And so we're going out of the parking lot. She says, "Go down and ask him for a job." So I went down to them. I found the guy, Charlie Aldrich, in the saloon, and I walked up and said, "Sir, I'd like to work here. I'm a busy kid. Can you come back next weekend?" So for 3 weekends in a row, I drive from Gardena, which is 55 miles.
Right.
Saturday, Sunday, 3 weekends in a row. Finally, he said, "You're a persistent little bastard, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Okay." He said, "You got any Western clothes?" I said, "No." He said, "Why don't you go to the Goodwill store, get a hat, the vest, and some things."
Yeah.
So I came back, and I thought I was going to get to be in the show. Well, I was in the show, but I had to walk in the background.
Right.
That didn't suit me
Extra.
at all. I was about ready to leave. And one Saturday, one of the guys that did a Hanging of Henry Plummer skit, because that's what we did. We reenacted the gunfight at the OK Corral and many shows like that. And he didn't show up, and I saw this guy Jerry walk up to Bob, who was on the horse getting ready for the hanging. He said, "Why don't we ask Dick? Why don't we see if he can do that?" And Bob said, "Yeah, go ahead. We need somebody." So they put a hat and coat and gun on me, and I get shot. I fall down a hill and roll into a creek. And
That's great.
and they looked at each other, and the rest of the shows from then on, which Jerry used to do, all the parts, Billy the Kid, Billy the Clanton, and the gunfight at the corral and so on, he turned them all over to me. And overnight, I became the star at Corriganville.
Right.
Well, through Corriganville and Jerry, who slept me around from studio to studio as I was moving along trying to get into this business, introduced me to a guy named Bill Ward. He had a rent string, a stable out of Griffith Park. If you probably, I don't know how many folks out there heard of Griffith Park, but it's a famous park in California, in the Los Angeles area. Yeah. Anyway, I got a job with him mucking stalls at his stable. Through that, he wrote a movie called Ballad of a Gunfighter, which starred Marty Robbins. The El Paso Marty Robbins. So he got me into the Screen Actors Guild through that. And through that, later on, it was tough going from 1960 on up. But finally I met Walt Disney. I took a picture of myself to the casting director, who obviously needed a guy in 2 days. So I was the guy he called. When I went in, I didn't know what was going on. And I see Walt Disney sitting on a desk backwards. And I'm at a costumers section putting on a wardrobe. He says, "How do you make a man out of a 16-year-old boy?" And that was the lead into Willie and the Yank, which starred Kurt Russell. And he said, "Son, come here." This was after the rehearsal. I come over there, and he said, "Now, you're not going to upstage me, are you?" I said, "Would I do that?" And I winked at him. I turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
And he, unbeknownst to me, I found out 8 years later that he went to Vitarelli, Art Vitarelli, who was my mentor at Disney for years. He said, "I want all the information you can get on this kid. I'm going to make a star out of him." Well, like I say, I didn't know for 8 years. This was after Walt had died, because he died shortly after I met him.
Right.
And that was kind of I stayed at Disney for 10 years.
With Kurt Russell.
I met Kurt on Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, but the doubling thing started on that movie.
Right.
But his dad didn't put me into the contract probably until 3 movies later.
So you were at Disney during that was your Herbie, wasn't Herbie the Love Bug? Were those Disney movies, or was that a different?
No, that's Disney.
Yeah. So, okay, was that after or before?
Yes.
So that was after this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I worked in a movie before Computer, but Computer is where I met Kurt.
Gotcha.
And then, on down the line came the Herbie movies, which I was thrilled to work on those things.
So doubling is Kurt Russell. We'll talk about Herbie in a minute, because that was one of those things. I was always fascinated with Herbie as a kid. It was the car that drove itself, and I thought that was so neat. And then when I found out your part with Herbie, that really that was awesome for me. So Kurt Russell. Which movies did you do as far as the original back in Kurt Russell's beginning? Which movies did you do with him?
Well, there was Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. There was Now You See Him, Now You Don't. There was Barefoot Executive. I can't remember all of them. I wish I'd have made a list of them, because after so many years it gets foggy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Tell me, which one stands out to you? I mean, what memories stand out to you of those times?
They all do, because it was like going to college at that studio.
Right.
They had the same crews every movie.
Oh.
And Walt was around for the first couple, and he did things like he was coming back from the commissary, and I was walking behind him. He was with 2 other gentlemen, and he stopped and looked down at the ground, and he reached down and picked up a piece of paper. And he said to them, if this was a dime, it wouldn't be there. Now, today it would be there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he was like that. He was a gentle guy, but yet stern when you better do the right thing.
Right.
And evidently, I was doing the right thing at that time. But yeah, and the whole experience with the cast and usually the crews, and then the cast were wonderful people. Everybody in every movie, except maybe for Buddy Hackett. He ended up being pretty good. I had an incident with him where he thought I was going to be his flunky. Hey, kid, get me your chair. Get me my chair. I said, well, I'm sorry, sir, but I said, I don't see your name on my check.
Oh, the Buddy Hackett.
Yeah. And I said,
Wow.
he said, yeah. And it all ended up okay, because at the end of the film, he handed out 5 wristwatches, which had Chinese numbers on them, and his name, Buddy Hackett. And I was fortunate enough he gave me one of them.
Wow.
So the respect changed, I guess, over time. But everybody else, Dean and Michelle and David Tomlinson, all the people that were in that film, it was great. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed all the movies I did. I did it with Ken Berry and doubling Helen Hayes. Michelle Lee. I doubled Michelle Lee and a bear. It was a bear in that film.
Right. So there was a tiger too.
That was the world's greatest athlete.
Right.
With Jan Michael Vincent.
Right.
And this tiger had to go in a hill, and he chased me. I got to tell you that story. I'm doubling this actor that had to be chased by this tiger, and he's a 400 or 500 pound Bengal tiger, and he was friendly. GT is his name.
As friendly as a tiger can be.
I mean, it's a tiger, man.
It's a tiger.
What can I tell you? So I've got to take off out into this football field, and this tiger's going to chase me and stop me. Here we go. And pretty soon, it's like being hit by a linebacker on the Rams or something. Boom, and down I went. And the next thing I know, I feel heat from his mouth over the back of my neck.
Oh.
Because that's the first thing I think those kind of animals, cats, go for.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, oh, my God. And then I hear the trainer say, GT, out. And he screamed it. And GT stopped and looked at him, and it was all over. It was like, oh, thank God. And then the tiger has to do a dive into a pit. Well, we're not going to make the tiger do the pitfall,
Right.
Hey, Warlock. So I get in the suit, and I got photos of that. I couldn't find them today, but I had to go head first in a pit.
In a tiger suit.
In a tiger suit.
Wow. That's insane. So, okay, you get through Disney.
Yep.
Go ahead and talk about Herbie the Love Bug. Let's talk about your part there.
Well, my first, that was where I doubled Buddy most of the time in the car.
Right.
And I jumped a motorcycle in one of the scenes, and I doubled Michelle Lee falling out of a tree. I doubled Benson Fong jumping on the back of Herbie as he was running away. But I was on the show every day. I was doing stand-in work. That was extra work, but it wasn't walking in the background.
Right,
it was standing in for the actors. And then I would get converted over to the A card, which allowed me to do those stunts. And that went on for a while, but that soon changed. But it just traveling around with Art and having Art Vitarelli, the second unit director there, who had so much experience with wire work and all that.
Right.
And in that movie, I was doubling kids hanging on the wires. Not literally doubling them on film, but testing the wires for all the people that had to do wire work.
Right,
Right. So I was gaining a lot of experience.
You don't want to kill a good actor with bad wires. You want to kill a stuntman.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Well, Ronnie Rondell's got a famous line about getting bumped off, and there's somebody saying, hey, pull him off to the side. Let's get somebody else in the clothes real quick.
I can't believe you got blood all over my set.
We're expendable. We're along with the Expendables.
Right. So, these days, you see a car driving itself, it's not a huge deal. But back then, seeing that little Volkswagen Beetle driving around with no driver, and it obviously, there were some real close-up shots of that car.
Yeah.
There was no driver there.
Well, that was in the first, and it was Carrie Lofton. And I learned a lot from Carrie about that. And then I drove Herbie that way in the second one, Herbie Rides Again.
So explain a little bit about how you drove Herbie in those days.
Herbie didn't have a light on the front in the first movie, but on the second, a light appeared out on the front, or like a little, and behind that light is a camera. Well, I'm sitting in the back seat with a tarp a lot of times over my head so they couldn't be seen. It was the color of the interior of the car. And I had my steering wheel, my clutch, my brake, the shift, and a TV monitor, small TV monitor.
So you're pretty much laying down.
Yeah.
So you can't see you. Right.
And that's how you drive that car. And in some scenes, because I couldn't see, the peripheral vision from the camera wasn't that wide.
Right.
So to make a turn, I had to, in rehearsal, I would watch it, and I'd make a count, 1, 2, and I turn, and then the camera would pick up the.
Sure.
And that's how I drove that car, and I did the same thing in Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. And to travel to Europe, we went over, all over.
You went to Monte Carlo,
France, and Monte Carlo. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, I guess you've traveled pretty much around the world.
Mexico, Canada, a little bit in England, and mostly France and up and down there.
What about? We'll get to that later. I was going to talk about your stuff where you did Delta Force, or you worked
Philippines.
Philippines. Those
a tragic accident in that one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So Herbie Love Bug. What come after that? Where did you go after working with Disney?
Well, we had a number of movies that I did with Ken Berry, and later on that way. But at the same time I was doing that, there's always a break between a movie, and I did things like Camelot at Warner Brothers and First to Fight, and a lot of them. So I would bounce mainly between Disney, Columbia, and Universal. Things they did. I did TV shows that were going on there, and I can't tell you which came first, the chicken or the egg, but. Police Story, Police Woman, Rockford Files, 6 Mil.
Wow.
All that kind of stuff.
$6 Million Man.
Yeah.
Wow. So Lee Majors. Wow. So what kind of work? Did you play characters in those, or did you just do stunt work?
Oh, a lot. Well, it was a combination. Usually it was playing a thug, one of the bad guys in the background, or maybe you had a line or two, and that was the extent of it. But yeah, it was driving a car or doing a fight. I was a German soldier in one that I remember where Roy Clark had me. He was the stunt coordinator and a double for James Garner. And he said, Dick, I want you and Jim to do this, and he's going to hit you and so on. And Jim comes in, and he's looking at the show because he showed it to Jim, the routine, and he said, I can't hit this little guy. He said, no, we got to change this. And so he said, I'm just going to spin him around, throw him over a table. Well, that worked. So that's what we had to do. But now Jim said, I can't hit this little guy.
So 5'10", 5'9"?
Me?
Yeah. What was your stature back then?
About 5'9.5". Yeah.
5'9.5". So you weren't a big, tall, brute guy.
Never was. That's what's so funny about Halloween.
Right. Yeah.
I'm the shortest dude. You go to conventions and they're all there from 6'8" down to 8'6", 5'6".
And there's you.
Because I'm 5'8" now. They just measured me recently.
Right. Well, with age, your suspension gets a little,
yes, it does.
worn over the years.
My back gets, my shoulder gets slouchy.
Right. So TV shows. Talking about TV shows back in those days, that was a completely different genre back then as it is now. Now we have things like Netflix and Prime Video, and it's just different. It was a different world back then.
Yep.
So Rockford Files, you said 6. What'd you do in the $6 Million Man?
Several times. I mean, the last thing I remember is driving a car. They have sets for practically everything. They shot the entire Virginian episode of the Virginian TV show right on the back lot, which is now the Universal Tours thing, where whatever
amusement park
big conglomerate is up there now. But there was a 9 or 10 step down into a park. And I drove a car off of that and down those steps, and that was the last thing I remember doing on 6 Mil. But it's funny. My memory is getting a little on the weak side, and there's a lot of those things. The chronology of the events they sort of intermingle, and I can't remember exactly which came first. Again, the chicken or the egg. So,
Right. So what would you consider to be what was the biggest part you feel like that you ever landed on one of those older TV shows? Is there one that stands out to you?
Well, I'll give you one that got me to no longer do the TV show, and that was on Police Story. It was one of the times I was usually the cop on the radio or driving the car. In this instance, I was the cop given the number here and the number there.
Right.
The producer sitting in the back seat. Now, the producer I know from Disney early on, he was an assistant director. Now he's the producer of this show, and he never rides in the. And he was sitting back there, and the nerves hit me. I have terrible stage fright from when I was at Corriganville. The guy that gave me the job there after the 3-week back and forth thing, he said he heard me singing Hound Dog in the sheriff's. That's the green room at the ranch, and he made me get up on stage and sing that. Well, I got out of meter with the band, and the people started.
Oh no!
And I got. And I froze and I left and got sick. And so anyway, here he is sitting back there, and it hit me. And I'm going, and I did it 2 or 3 times, and I finally got it finally.
Right.
And I never worked on the show again.
Wow.
But I doubled Kurt on that show. But I never did the show again.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So,
but, you can't make mistakes.
No, I get
I
it.
made my share, though.
I get it. Yeah, I'm sure they were impatient back then, especially.
Yeah.
It was a different world. There wasn't as much understanding as there is
I think
now.
there's more then than there is now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's clipboards and stopwatches and get it done now.
Right. More structured.
Yes, a lot more structured.
Right.
And not as much fun.
Right.
That's another thing about Disney. The college thing, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
People would play tricks on each other. I missed it a lot when I finally left.
I couldn't imagine.
I left because after Disney died, the studio started to change.
Sure.
And there were things that started coming out, and people had things they wanted to do with you that you weren't into, and so I just
I get it.
I had to leave.
Well, everything must change.
Yes, it does. Seasons.
It does. Yeah, it definitely
There was
changes.
a Christian talk show host in California. He used that expression. It's just a season of your life.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, TV shows. What happened after the TV shows? Where did you start to pick up movies back up again and start getting back involved in?
I still did movies. I did,
Right.
like I said, I did Camelot, and as movies. I'm trying to remember when I would do movies. I did TV movies. I did something about Toby the Gorilla. I was a coordinator on that, and
Stunt coordinator.
yeah. And I'll never forget about, I don't know, I won't talk about that either.
Oh, okay.
It's about an actor, and I don't want to mention his name, but
okay.
there was an actor who had to be up high on a scaffolding, and the camera was down here looking up, and they finally got him on set, and he had this white powder on his upper lip,
no.
and
Yes, motivation.
He was getting into character.
Right,
I don't know what the character was, but he was getting into it.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah. Which I'm sure that was commonplace back in the 70s, especially.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, the cowboys, they hit the saddle, fall off that horse. And it was
Probably giving some to the horses,
It
too.
was wild. It was. I mean, the honey wagon, which are all the dressing rooms in a trailer,
Right.
the doors are open, and everything is in full bloom.
Oh, yeah.
Dang it.
Oh, so, all right. So, let's say back in the 70s, 80s, what are you doing in the 70s and 80s?
Boy, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I was working.
I know, working.
But I can't tell you exactly what I was working on, though.
So let's talk about Jaws. You were in Jaws?
That was 74,
right?
wasn't it?
74.
Oh, I did rollerball in 74, too. I went over to Germany, And I forgot about Germany, but James Caan, and that was a great show. I loved it. I was in the best shape of my life over there.
Right.
Oh, it was, and I wasn't supposed to get the job. They had interview for it at a roller rink. And I was a pretty good skater because as I was coming up about the same time, just before Corriganville, I got into roller derby. I wanted to be a roller derby skater because I met Ralph Valadares, who was on the Braves in Los Angeles. And I was studying speed skating at a roller rink, and he was teaching it. And he kind of liked another guy, Stosh Manny, and myself. And he took us to the Western Skating Institute in Los Angeles, where they trained you for roller derby.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe some of the folks are going to remember roller derby out there, I'm sure. But, so with the skating experience, when I did My Dog the Thief at Disney, I was the cameraman who was going around the track because none of the other guys could skate that well. So I did that piece of business. And
You're a pro roller skater, too.
Huh?
So you're a pro roller skater?
Well, yeah. I was weeks away from going professional, and it was to go to Hawaii. But they said, well, it's $125 a week, but you pay your own airfare back and forth. If you want to leave the island over there, you pay for your own room, your own food. And I thought, I don't think so. Yeah. That's a long story too. Right. But anyway, I did that, and where was I with the other story? Rollerball.
Yeah.
We were at this roller rink, and he wanted Fred Brookfield to go, the stunt coordinator, Max. He wanted Fred to go. He didn't want me because he didn't know me that well. And unfortunately, I'm skating backwards, and Fred's coming this way, but he trips and falls and breaks his hip. Well, Max takes me off to the side, and he said, listen, kid. He said, I don't know you. He said, but the producer wants to take you on this show, so you're going to go. But he said, you're going to work hurt, you're going to work long, and I don't want to hear any complaining. I said, you won't. By the end of the show, he said, dang, I'm glad I hired you. I came in real handy. They had a roller hockey team, which really were the standout roller skaters on the show from England. But that was another one that was a blast.
Oh, I bet.
It was fun. Some of the English guys and myself, I bought a camera over there, a really nice Super 8 camera, and I filmed what was like the Beatles' Help,
Yeah.
And it was these three guys moving through France, or through that area anyway of Germany, not France, Germany, and it came out real well. It's silent, but it was funny.
Well, that's awesome.
So, anyway, that was a good movie to work on.
Right. So 70s, we go through Jaws. Let's talk a little bit about Jaws and Spielberg.
Yeah, one day I had a phone call from the production manager, and he said, listen, we got your name from Jesse Wayne, a stunt guy. And I said, oh, yeah, I know Jesse. He said, well, he's busy, but he said, we'd like to see you over here for an interview for a movie that we're doing. He tells me you're an underwater guy, you're a scuba diver. I said, yeah. And so I went in and I met the production company and Tom Joyner, the production manager. He said, well, he gave me a date to go down to MGM Studios. And I was thinking, MGM Studios, what am I doing underwater at MGM Studios? Well, for anybody who remembers Esther Williams, who did a lot of water ballet movies, she had a huge tank built on lot 3. They had 3 lots at MGM. So, I showed up down there, and they took me in the makeup and hair, and they curled my hair with a curling iron. And when I got in the cage, I finally met Steven, but he wasn't, he was the director, and you kind of always...
he didn't really, he wasn't really that big of a name back then anyway.
No.
You probably didn't even know who he was,
no.
Did you? Yeah. So, that was really his launching pad.
Well, I knew of the movie Duel.
Right.
Which was good. I liked that movie.
Yeah, I saw it. It was a great movie, but it didn't really put him on the map.
No.
It got him recognized in Hollywood, but as far as just the world knowing Steven Spielberg.
Do you want to hear a little story about him? You know how
Sure.
what I heard about Steven? He was so determined to get in the business that he would go into the studio with the crew when they were coming back from lunch, and he'd found himself an office in the main Black Tower building, hired out of the secretarial pool, got his own secretary, had his own thing going. And when they found out about it is when they said the same thing that guy back years ago, you're persistent little.
Yeah.
And they put him to work. They gave him a TV show. He did an episode of a TV show, and they said, we got to keep this guy. And then it blossomed from there. And, of course, Jaws was a nightmare for Universal Studios. It went way over budget and time. And
almost got canceled a few times. I mean, it was, nobody thought it was going to be a good movie either.
Well, it was like The Abyss.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, The Abyss. We'll talk about that in a minute.
The Abyss. Another one.
So go ahead. They curl your hair.
Yeah, curl my hair. I get into the cage and my hair goes straight. But Richard has curly hair. Oh, another thing.
Richard Dreyfuss.
This was 3 weeks or something after they wrapped the movie. They realized we don't have any shark footage. They had Ron and Valerie Harper were hired to take this little fella to Australia, which they did, and get shark footage to make. They had a little tiny cage and a little tiny guy and a little tiny scuba tank. The picture is just anyway. They never got any because I've heard 2 stories about this. They found an 18-footer and it would look 25 with him, so they start to put him in the cage. The shark comes up and there's a cable, one cable and then a V on the cage. And the shark stuck its nose through that, which is in the film. You can see it flashing around. Well, when they finally realized after the shark ripped the thing off the boat.
So that was actually a real shark.
60 foot, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a scene from way down here.
Right.
With the shark thrashing. But, well, Bruce was a real shark too. Come on.
Bruce.
What a name.
Yeah.
Anyway, then he finally found poor, right offhand, I can't remember his name, down below decks, taking his sweatsuit off, saying, get me the hell out of here. I ain't going to do this. Anyway, they realized they didn't have any footage, so they
I would have quit too.
Yeah. So anyway, the curly hair, I go back. They curl the hair with permanent, and we worked a week on that particular stuff, and it was.
So you were
fun.
in there with the real shark also?
No.
Okay, so it was all Bruce for you.
In
Bruce.
the tank. The cage is here with the back of it facing Spielberg, who's looking through a porthole over here. Whitey Crumb, who's over here with his remote control moving Bruce around. They're talking via, like we're talking. And, raise up, open the mouth, put your and I could hear this.
Right.
Because Rex Metz, who was the camera operator in the water, had to hear it too. So they had an underwater microphone or speaker. And anyway, we spent a week down there shooting that stuff. And
so, for those that don't know, the Hooper, who was the marine biologist in Jaws, he was the only specialist there. At the end of the movie, he goes down in a cage to try to dart.
Well, yeah.
It was, and so. The footage, which was Richard Dreyfuss played Hooper, the footage from that is really scary when you watch it in the movie. But the actual shots of Hooper in the cage is part of those are you, and part of those are the guy that quit. That I guess basically that was.
Well, no, he never appeared on camera.
Oh, okay.
No,
gotcha.
There was one of the crew members did the big eye shot,
right,
and the swim down,
right.
Yeah, that was.
And you did everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how real did that shark seem in the water with it? Just as knowing it wasn't, but
the first time it hit the cage, it busted through it.
Right.
And I lost the regulator out of my mouth. I mean, he hit me because I carry it loose anyway.
Right.
And I'm scrambling around from that, and Zenda. Fred Zenda's the stunt coordinator. He's sitting up on the side of the cage, and the tank, and he's looking down, and he's not paying any attention. I'm doing this.
Yeah, you're just the stunt guy.
And and I get the regulator back in my mouth and went on, and nobody ever knew about it.
Right. Well, you look panicked, which is that's awesome.
I mean, I was only this distance,
Right.
from the top.
Sure.
I could have climbed out anytime I wanted to. So, Well, maybe it was panic.
Did you get didn't I see you get a little Bruce souvenir, a tooth or something from or
Yes.
something?
Yeah, my son Lance has got it now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's all right. So, all right, Jaws. I'm trying to think of all the movies that you were in, all the big ones. You mentioned The Abyss a minute ago.
Yeah.
You actually had a part in The Abyss, not just a stunt guy, but you were also, weren't you the first one to get killed in The Abyss?
No, there were two guys ahead of me that when the water first rushed through, they find me underwater when the little whatever goes around, and I was asleep. It looked like I was asleep under my cot.
Right. Yeah. Drowned there.
Yeah.
What was your name in that? It was Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, he refers to me. Ed refers to me.
Yeah, Ed Harris.
Yeah. What a great guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I always hoped he was a good guy, because I was always a huge fan of, a lot of times you meet somebody you think is just awesome and they wind up not being. But I always hoped Ed Harris would be a good guy because
he is.
That's great.
Dean Jones. I mean, there's so many good guys out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about The Abyss. You were talking about it. Was it a money? I can only imagine how much money that movie cost.
That was.
Yeah.
They sent a couple of people from Fox Studios down there to get them fired, to fire them.
Wow.
And the lady producer, whose name escapes me now.
That's okay.
And Jim said, we can't let them get us. We stick together. They can't fire us. We're too deep into this thing, and they know it. So, but it did get cheap. If you notice the end, that when the thing, you finally see the ship or the thing or whatever it is, it's plastic. I mean, it really looks funky because they did it in L.A. They didn't do it down in South Carolina.
Right.
Where I met my wife.
Wow. So you met your wife on the set of The Abyss or while working on The Abyss?
I was working on The Abyss, and I went into a mall down there in Spartanburg, South Carolina, is where we shot it in a tank. And it was actually a nuclear reactor tank that didn't have the dome top on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 55 feet deep and 110 feet across, and they painted it black, and they put beads in the water to make the sun keep the sunlight out.
Huh.
Well, nobody thought ahead, and I don't think I would have either. When you release the air bubbles from the scuba tank, it goes up and it opened the beads up.
Oh, right.
They would get streaks of light coming in everywhere, so they had to take all the beads out, and then they put a tarp over the whole thing to keep the blackness. But
Right.
that was a good movie to work on, except for the pressure from Cameron. Cameron learned under a famous director every aspect of the business, from wardrobe to hair, makeup, production, transportation, you name it, and he knew how to do it.
James Cameron.
He knew your job better than you did sometimes.
Right.
And you better do it right, or anyway, he was a pressure kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And how I got the job as Jesse, that was Jaws. This one was one of the other stunt guys took the job as a coordinator because that's who the lady producer wanted it, who was Jim's former wife.
Mm-hmm.
They were good friends. Anyway, she asked for him. He went down. He said, I'm going to direct second unit. Cameron said, no, you're not. I am. And he said, I'm out of here. Call somebody else. So he left. And Cameron, I had met on before they shot the Aliens movie with him, where he directed it. I was at Stan Winston's studio helping him work out the mother alien. So there was another guy that I hired. He said, get me another guy. And so I was back to back with him, moving the arms and doing that stuff. And Jim showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we met. But it wasn't a, hey, how you doing kind of thing. It was,
right.
Well, he remembered me, so he called for me. He said, you got your guy, and I want mine now. So he called me. Tough guy to work for. In fact, I ended up writing him a letter and saying, aside from Spielberg, you're the greatest director I've ever worked with, but I'm sorry, don't ask me again because I don't think I can do it. Something like that.
Right.
I don't remember the exact verbiage, but so I never worked for him again.
Hey, you can call your own
Choices.
shots.
You make choices.
You make choices. Sure.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, you've got
Excuse me.
that's okay. You've got The Abyss. You got Jaws, of course. What about your work with Kurt Russell? Let's go back. Like I was trying to think. Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Those which big movies, Kurt Russell movies? What era
There
do
was
you remember?
Thing. There was The Abyss. There was not The Abyss, but The Thing and Escape from New York.
Uh-huh.
And then what? I know there's another one or two in there, but I can't remember what they are because I went from Escape from New York to Halloween 2, and then.
So you did the Halloween work while you were also doubling for Kurt Russell.
Yeah, but Kurt wasn't doing anything during that period.
Gotcha.
You know, so it wasn't like I was missing. I did miss 2 movies when I was doing the Halloween work.
Right.
That he was in, but there was no stunts in them really.
Gotcha.
You know, that was
Yeah, those were dramas.
Captain Ron,
Yeah.
and you know that other one.
So so Halloween. Let's talk about Halloween. Were you involved at all in the first Halloween?
No,
So the original
I hadn't
Halloween.
even seen it.
Hadn't even seen it.
No.
Okay.
No, Deborah handed me a copy of it and said, "You got to watch this if you're going to do this guy."
Right. So talk a little bit about that. The how did you wind up on the Halloween set working? What were you originally doing there, and then how did you wind up being this guy?
Because I knew Deborah and John from Escape from New York,
Right.
which was a great movie to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Escape from New York was. But I went into the office. She called me one morning. She said, "Come down to the office. I want to talk to you about doing stunt coordinator on our new movie." So I had no idea what it was. So I went.
So you
down.
were originally just stunt coordinator for Halloween 2.
Yeah. So I get in her office and she tells me a little about this guy and the movie. And she said, well, "I'd like you to meet the director though, get his approval." I said, "Great." She said, "He's down the hall, last door. Just go straight into his office." And I said, "Okay." So I saunter on down there, and on the way, I passed 3 other offices, and in the last one there was a desk, a chair, and the mask laying on the desk. I mean, isn't that strange?
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
it was like meant to be or
There's
something.
a mask of Captain Kirk
I thought,
with a weird haircut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I put the mask on. I went to his doorway and stood there and looked at him. He said, who are you? And I just looked at him. He said, "Who the hell are you?"
You're standing in John Carpenter's.
No, Rick Rosenthal.
Okay, Rosenthal.
He was
Gotcha.
the director of the show.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I said, "Oh, it's just me." So I took the mask off. I walk over and I said, "I'm Dick Warlock." And Deborah said I should come down and meet you. You're going to direct a movie. I didn't know that was his first movie. Most of the people were in it out of his film school.
Right.
Gloria Griffith. Anyway. So we sat down, had the meeting. I got up and I'm walking out and I stopped and I turned and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, Rick," I said, "is there any reason I can't play this guy?" He looked me up and down. He said, "I don't care if Deborah doesn't." So I walked back out to Deborah's office. He said, "If you agree, I could play this guy." She said, "Yeah, it's fine with me."
Wow.
Yeah. So I end up doing Michael Myers. I buy the coveralls. I buy the boots.
They had the mask?
They got no, the mask was from the first movie.
All right, right.
She had it in a box underneath her underneath her bed for all those years.
I watched the way they come up with the mask. It was like they had filmed almost the whole first movie and didn't have a mask. They were just like, or they hadn't filmed it, but they were getting ready to go to. That was like the last thing they came up with was the mask. And one of the guys went and found a Kurt Russell, or Captain Kirk.
No, you're talking about the first movie.
Yeah, the first movie. That was how they actually came up with that look. Was just altered.
That was Tommy Lee Wallace, who was hired as the set director and that guy. And John and Deborah and Tommy Lee Wallace went to Don Post Studios and worked looking through masks. And Carpenter wanted a clown because at the end of the first movie, the kid had a clown.
Right, right.
So he was trying to carry that theme along. And, of course, Tommy, he's digging around, and he found the Kirk mask.
Captain Kirk.
And he put it on, and he said, "How about this?" And John said, and Tommy said, "Wait till I finish with it. Give me a chance with it, and then we'll make a decision." So Tommy takes it and he does the whole white
Cut all the
makeup.
hair off.
Trims off those pointy sideburns, matted the hair down, cut out the eye holes bigger. In fact, in the original mask, they're kind of slits almost. So they come up with that mask, and that's the one they stuck. And what a...
It was a faceless face, basically, was the idea behind it. It was a shape. That was it. That's why they called it the shape.
Well, they did that because Nick Castle, who was cast as Michael Myers and referred to all along as Michael Myers on the call sheets and stuff, he already had the name. So when they put him in the credits, they put him as Michael Myers. Now they had to come up with somebody for the other thing. So that's where they come up with the shape.
The shape.
That's how they got that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did some fun stuff with you, a couple local commercials and things, and actually got you back in the mask and the coveralls, but just a personal...
Creeping around some local spots.
Just a personal story. We started off this whole shoot with you like you were waking up to go to work murdering people.
Yeah.
And so we have the alarm go off, and you rise up in the bed, and my wife was at home recovering from knee surgery.
Yes.
And we have you come down my steps in the suit, and I will never forget standing in my foyer watching you come down those steps and that walk. It was just, it's so...
It's funny. I hated that walk.
Right, but it's just that character. It made it how you come down in Halloween 2. When you're chasing
Jamie Lee.
When you're chasing Jamie Lee through the hospital, and that one little section where you come down the steps. I mean, it's just such a signature.
Well, and I never looked down.
Yeah, never look down. Just such a signature creepy walk.
Well, they had me duplicate that in this little video.
We did. We had you come down my steps into my foyer, and I'll never forget. My wife's sitting on the couch with her back to us, and you just lean over and just look at her face and just kind of cock your head sideways, and she lost her mind. I mean, she was genuinely scared. Really? It was that. Oh yeah, that was great.
I should have been there.
Yeah,
I never saw that.
Oh, so I guess probably Michael Myers is where you probably still get the most recognition as far as the character goes, and it's just because of the craze for horror movies. There's such a following for that genre.
Because I did Friday 5, and that because the guy that played the character Jason wasn't really the Jason. He was an ambulance guy who was impersonating Jason.
Right. So go back to on Halloween then. So you got Halloween 2. You did the shape.
The assassin is the character name.
In that Halloween 3, then you became the assassin.
Yes.
And that was actually, you were one of the main characters, right? You were kind of a robot.
I was the lead guy.
Yeah, the lead guy in Halloween 3. So was that your last Halloween movie, or did you participate in any of the other ones after that?
That was my last one.
Okay.
And I had done a movie with Deborah up in Canada, and we had a kind of a misunderstanding, and I never worked for that company again.
There seems to be a pattern here, Dick.
Yeah, there is. Dick has more morals and character.
Hey, there you go.
That's what that's all wrapped around, is morals and character.
There's not enough of that around these days.
I don't know. To each his own.
Right.
But
so you said Nightmare. Is that what you said? Nightmare on Elm Street. What did you say? You played.
Oh no, Jason Part 5.
Jason, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a coordinator, and I don't know what the heck I was going to say about that.
Well, it's okay.
It's
so you got into horror movies.
But I wasn't recognized for that movie.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff out there that I noticed when I was going through your list of things. There's a lot of stuff out there that you don't really see your name on. I guess back then, stunt guys
didn't do that.
They just didn't. Yeah. Didn't give
all
you
the
credit
Disney
for it.
movies. I think that my name is listed in Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. I think.
Right.
I think that's the one that I got credit.
Right.
But they didn't know. They didn't get it.
Yeah. So you're in the horror movies now. What about the Chucky? Let's talk about Chucky.
It seems like I fell into that horror thing. And
right.
Chucky.
Yeah, Chucky made it hard on us redheaded kids. It was that was a tough thing.
Oh with the pumpkin and the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an odd film.
Right, it was. It was a good film. I remember as a younger
so-
person watching it, I thought it was great.
I got a call just yesterday, as a matter of fact, that there is a convention trying to be put together to where that is the theme, the main theme, because the audience for that movie has risen immensely. It's like a cult classic.
Right. Well, I think they're actually remaking. They're turning it into a series. I think on Netflix or on Prime Video. They're actually going to start a series. Yeah, it's going to be like a season of Chucky. I saw that. We were watching some sort of a horror movie.
That's not Chucky. That's Halloween 3 that I'm talking about.
Oh, Halloween 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about.
No, I switched over.
Oh, it's okay. I'm with you.
Stay
now.
with me.
Yeah, it's okay.
I
I'm
can't
with you.
stay with like now. Anyway, it's Halloween 3, and it's based in Ohio. I mean, the convention's going to take place in Ohio if it happens, and it'll be sometime next year. And I'm looking forward to that. That'll be the first convention I'm going out to probably 2.5 years.
I mean, you go to a Halloween convention. I guess nobody's going to mind wearing a mask there, right?
No.
Should be.
Yeah. That's why I'm going as a cowboy. That's why the long hair.
Yeah.
And a mustache.
Yeah. You get back to your cowboy days.
I'm going to wear a bandana because I didn't have to grow this mustache.
You're not going to be falling off any buildings or anything, are you?
No, I certainly hope not. I've had my fill of that. A shoulder that I can only lift up this high, 2 new knees.
Hey, let's talk about that. Yeah, injuries.
I'm looking at a hip.
Injuries. So you said 83? Is that right?
I'll be
82. Okay,
February.
So how are you physically from all that
Actually,
work?
I'm pretty good.
Are you?
This arm is stuck.
Right.
That's from the original rollerball, and then from a movie, another kind of horror movie is called the Relic.
Right, the Relic.
Whether you've ever seen it or
Yeah,
not.
I remember it.
But I'm a cop, come in on a helicopter and start to rappel down through a skylight, and I get hit by this CGI thing,
Right.
this relic, and he takes me 30 feet out into a table, and I actually injured it on the first time we did it, and
Right.
then we did it again, and it didn't help it, so I never had it fixed.
Yeah, it rarely helps when you do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The so as far as your injuries goes, what was the worst injury you ever got as a stuntman?
Working?
Yeah, working.
Probably that one.
Really?
Those two, yeah. The knees that worked at Universal Tour, and a guy hit me in the side of the knee with an axe handle. We were doing a fight, and he was drinking, and he stepped in on me and hit me with this axe handle, and it chipped a quarter-sized piece of cartilage out of my knee.
Oh.
And for 8 years, I didn't have it looked at. When I did, it was the size of a dime, and the doctor said, "You should have done this about 8 years ago."
Wow.
So now I got an artificial
It'd have been worth
knee.
over double.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I've had my share, but they're not as bad as some of the guys.
So did you do fire and all that stuff too?
Well, the end of this movie.
So that was you.
That was
It
me.
wasn't another. They didn't bring in another
No.
stunt guy to do the firework. You did it all.
I did it twice.
Right.
I did the Hindenburg. I was in the nose cone, came out of the Hindenburg on fire. We did, of course, Firestarter.
Oh, Firestarter.
Yeah,
There's another
I did
one.
a good part in Firestarter. I mean, it wasn't a large part. But
What'd you do in Firestarter?
I was a guy named Knowles. There's Knowles and Reykjavik. No, that's a place in Russia. Isn't it? Anyway, Stenowitz is the guy's name. Knowles and Stenowitz. I was Knowles. And I get burned up at the end, and I'm running and firing my gun at her, and she's firing those balls of fire.
Right.
And then get lit on fire and stumble around and fall down.
So you were a stunt coordinator in that movie too, or just
that
did
was
stunt work?
no, that's a guy, another guy, Randall, J.R. Randall.
Gotcha.
Good stunt coordinator. He did all the rest of the Spielberg pictures. I think his first one might have been E.T., and then
Right.
he did everything Spielberg did after that. You know, the ones with the brown hat guy,
Yeah.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
What was that? Indiana Jones.
Made a fortune.
Oh, yeah. He's coming back for a 5th one now. I think Harrison
Really?
Ford is. I think they're going to do another one.
Oh my gosh! Now he's playing the part that the English actor that was my favorite James Bond.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean
Dad.
played the old man.
He
in that one.
actually, yeah. I mean, Harrison Ford, I think, is older than Sean was in that
Probably.
movie. But he just I don't know what he's eating and drinking and doing, but he looks great.
I wish I could eat and drink something that would improve my memory.
Yeah. That's fish oil is what they say.
Fish oil?
Yeah, fish oil.
I take fish oil.
Well, there you go. Imagine what you couldn't remember if you didn't.
I wouldn't remember to take the fish oil.
That's right. So, most people are more excited about your horror movie stuff than anything. But I think that the thing that excites me most is the Mel Brooks stuff.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So,
Mel Brooks.
Yeah,
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
I got an interesting story about that. He should have fired me on that movie.
On Blazing Saddles?
Yeah.
So let's move on to that then. Let's talk a little bit about the funny stuff, Mel Brooks, and this is where you with Mel Brooks you played one of the characters that most anybody will probably remember. We'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about Blazing Saddles.
Previous Mel Brooks
okay.
movies.
Which ones did you do before?
Silent movie.
What'd you do in silent movie?
Blazing Saddles. Silent movie. I was a guy on a stretcher that came out and got thrown over some down some stairs,
right.
off of a little balcony.
Silent movie is such an off-the-wall movie. It's a fantastic movie, but it's not for everybody. But it is a very, very funny movie.
Blazing Saddles I started on the Western Street and went all the way through with Dom DeLuise and the boys, and into the cafeteria, with the pie fights, and which was terrible because there's a place in Burbank that has a bakery.
That's where they fought their way through California. Basically, they came out of the set they broke the fourth wall.
Exactly,
and
from
in
the
a
Mojave
huge
Desert
way.
all the way down to San Diego. But we were throwing these pies, and we had to wear the same wardrobe every day. They couldn't wash it and try to duplicate it.
Right.
So by the third day,
it was rancid.
Cream from the pies. They didn't use shaving cream or whipped cream like they used.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was horrible. But I have one close up. It's a profile, much like what you're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. I come into the scene, and Tony Epper was a big guy. He punches me, and I go right out. That's it.
that's your one big close up.
And the actor that's playing the Gabby Hayes character is standing on the curb beside. He'd be back here looking, and got his bottle going, And then they cut to something else. The lady being thrown through a window or something.
So, talking about Blazing Saddles, and today's times versus
couldn't
back
get
then.
away with it.
You couldn't make that movie now, and probably one of the funniest movies.
All of Mel's were takeoffs and comedic takes on Jewish people, and just anything.
Well, he had mercy on no one. I mean, it was even like Blazing Saddles. A lot of people say, well, Blazing Saddles was racist. No, it was the reverse. It actually made the minority out to be the smartest. Mm-hmm. And all the white folks were idiots.
That's it.
And it was genius.
It was.
I mean, it was pure genius.
Yep. Only Mel could have got away with it.
Oh yeah, Mel, genius. I mean, I don't know what your relationship or what kind of guy Mel Brooks actually is. But he's one of those guys. I hope he's a great guy, but he was just the way his mind worked is just.
My experience with him was very good.
Right.
Very good. It's like I said, he should have canned me, but
why should he have canned you?
The reason being, it's the scene where the two guys, Bill and John Candy as Barf.
Oh, you're talking about Spaceballs now.
Spaceballs.
Right.
The Queen was in the back, or whatever. Princess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Princess
Leia.
No, that's Star Wars. It was Princess. What was it? Vespa. Yeah.
Vespa.
Princess Vespa. That's
Princess
right.
Vespa.
Yeah, from Druidi.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And anyway, they're talking back and forth, and Bill makes some comment, and Candy, as Barf says, funny, she doesn't look Jewish or Jewish.
Druish.
That's what it was.
Yes.
And Mel is twice as far away, like the gal or the guy back there in the back. I can't see who that is. But, and he's watching the monitor because everything is on a digital, monitor sponsored. They see the same thing the cameraman's seeing.
Sure.
And I can tell because I'm standing on the steps looking up at these two guys in the motorhome. Mm-hmm. And I can tell that he's not happy. He said, well, let's do it one more time, And I think it was that line, the way he was delivering it. It didn't even convince me.
Right.
Honey, she doesn't look to it's just something.
I remember the line, John Candy.
And I said, Mel, I think I know what you want. And I started up the steps into the. I was going to.
Oh.
Candy. I forget exactly how but his voice raised up. Come here. He got me over there and he said, how did he put it? It shook me. I'm the director. You're not. You're the guy that falls down. I give the lines. I talk to people. You do not. And he said, because if you do, the grip, the electrician, everybody on the set wants to be the director too. Can't do that. I thought, I'm on my way out. Then they got the thing.
Wow.
We went to lunch. We came back. He was there. And I came back. And there were a few people mulling around. He says, come here. And I walked over and I thought, that's when I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, I'm sorry that I yelled at you. He said, but you got to understand, I am the director. And if I let you get away with that, he said, right or wrong, it's not good.
What a good guy.
Yeah. And I said, I understand, sir. He said, all right. And that was the end of that.
Right.
And I thought, I should have been fired.
Yeah.
Working with John Candy was a treat. I have a bone at home. It's a gold bone on a wooden base. Mm-hmm. And it says barf on it. It's one of those things.
Barf.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Lone Star and
just
barf.
Cool. It's like the only two gifts. Well, I finally got a truck from Kurt from when we did Big Trouble in Little China.
Right.
He gave everybody a truck, so he wasn't going to leave me out. But he's never, ever given me a gift at the end of a movie or said thanks or anything.
Right.
Anytime.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about the biggest part of all in Spaceballs that you had, the Vulcan neck pinch. So
Bill comes down. They're in the ear of the lady, and who looks like the Statue of Liberty. I think I got that right. Anyway, they're cruising through there, and he gets out of the spaceship, and he comes down, and he's creeping along the hallway, and they cut to this guard standing there, who happened to be me. And he comes up and gets me like that, and I said, what the hell are you doing? He says, the Vulcan pinch?
Vulcan neck pinch.
The Vulcan neck pinch. No, you idiot. It's down here where the shoulder meets the neck. Like this? Yeah. Clunk, and I hit the floor.
It's funny because in that movie, there's probably 6 or 8 places that I remember, and that was one of them. Long before I even knew you, I still remembered that one little clip.
Yeah.
It was just that stood out and actually I was watching a highlight thing on YouTube of Spaceballs and funniest moments in Spaceballs, and it made the top 10 list.
Really?
Was that one little section.
Well, how I got that was I went to him, and I had read it in the script, and I said, hey, Mel, I said, hey, can I do this guy? And he said, no. He said, you fall down to make a living. The actors do the talking. I said, oh, come on. I'd really like to do this. And I got, please let me do this. Oh, all right. So I did it. The next day, when they watched the previous day's shooting in dailies, they call dailies, they're looking at it. They come out of there. I didn't get to go. And the director of photography, let me tell you, you got the biggest laugh in dailies.
You did. You did. Absolutely. Anybody I talk to, I'll tell them, hey, Michael Myers is my neighbor, or somebody will be talking about it, and I'll bring up that you live close to me, and I'll tell them, it's like, I can go through and tell them things that you've done in movies, but that one is the one that everybody, no way.
Yeah.
That was really. So, okay. So, Mel Brooks, Spaceballs. I'll move on just to kind of hit a couple of more highlights before we go. We've had you for a while. Let's talk about Casino.
Yeah.
Another big movie you were in.
Yeah,
you actually had a part in that one.
Yeah. I worked with him, De Niro, in Midnight Run before that.
Right. What'd you do in Midnight Run?
I was one of the sheriff guys driving the car chasing him.
Cool. That was another great movie.
One of those stunt movies. He and Charles Grodin Charlie was more congenial than De Niro. De Niro's kind of the kind of guy, he gets into his part. He and James Dean and those kind of people, they all studied in the same place.
Right.
And he gets into his characters.
Hyper-focused.
Yeah, and his character was kind of a little more lightheaded than normal for him. I mean, and he was fairly congenial. And I said, how about you guys take a picture with me? Yeah. Charlie says, come here. So he got De Niro over there, and we got this great photo. And now the next movie comes up, and it's I get a call from the coordinator, Danny, and he says, need you for a couple of days. It turned out to be a week because they kept postponing it. We shot it at the Riviera Hotel, which isn't there anymore. Mm-hmm. And when it came time to do the scene, De Niro's already up doing his part where he gets on the phone and calls Armstrong.
Yeah, got some guys cheating at blackjack.
So here's Armstrong. So they call me up, and what's his name? Old Coke Snorter. What's the director's name?
Oh, for Casino?
Yeah.
Scorsese?
Scorsese.
Yeah.
They're chummy. Those two are
yeah.
really chummy. Anyway, Scorsese comes up, and he's talking to, and he introduces me to De Niro. Mm-hmm. And he didn't say, oh, I remember you, or nothing. He never even looked at me. Never said, how are you? Nice to meet you.
No.
He was in his character. So we get ready. We do the scene, and I go over to the table, drop the thing down my sleeve, and I'm out of there. I'm gone.
So you play the part, you walk up to him, and then he sends you, and you shock the guy at the table with a cattle prod, basically.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And he's the guy that winds up in back getting his hand beat with the hammer.
They mucked him out, didn't they?
Oh. That's another memorable scene from that movie was him getting his hand smashed with the hammer. And you were the reason they took him back there.
Kathy, my wife, said to me when she saw it on the big screen, look how big your head is. I mean, and I got a full close-up. Right. Look how big your head.
That's great.
And she comments on that today.
Well, man, is there anything else you want to talk about? I know you got a website. You want to talk about your website a little bit and what you got going on there?
DickWarlock.com. It's a new website. I don't much care for it the way it works, like the old one. But the old one, they wouldn't keep up with it any longer.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that we don't do on that one, the new one that I did on the old one.
Right.
I try to do a blog, but I don't know really how to do a blog. Occasionally I'll get on and tell them what I've been up to. And that's basically it. I don't do it daily.
So
weekly,
any way to get any kind of autographs or materials or anything?
you can get pictures and autographs there. We don't do personalizations anymore. We kind of did away with that because I went through a period where I would try to sign, and it seemed like my hand had its own mind, and it would and it wasn't so much these photos like this one, because I can replace it. I just throw this in the trash and get another one.
Right.
And so I would mess up personal items, and I can't replace those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I remember one of the guys from Starsky and Hutch. He signed a TV guide that a woman had saved for years and went to a convention and had him sign it, and he just scribbled something, and he had the wrong name.
Oh.
And she said, but that, I said, it's a TV guide. And it just blew him off. And some of those guys can be real a-hole.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, excuse me, but
that's okay.
They can be terrible.
Absolutely, they can. So DickWarlock.com, and you can get on there and get a signed picture. You said you had a conventions. Any conventions coming up for Halloween?
It's in the works. It's in the works, but I think I'm going to come back out for a while just to before I get where I can't go anymore.
Right.
Because I get a lot of requests, from people that have, God, I got this of you. That I'd sure love to meet you.
Sure.
And I'd like to meet them. The fans,
you're a fun guy to meet.
Well, the fans make those conventions.
Absolutely.
They make the movie stars.
Absolutely.
But these people don't remember where they started.
No, that's true. Well, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time out, especially around Halloween.
Thank you, neighbor.
This is a big deal. Thank you, neighbor. Maybe we'll have you back sometime. We'll get you back next Halloween.
Happy Halloween to all you folks out there.
Happy Halloween to all you folks out there, and thanks for watching us.
Yep.
Until next time.
Till next time.